the teaching profession from various vantage points, and then also seeing a lot on CCEs, the career and technical education, and dual credit and dual enrollment bills. And that's in addition to, of course, many other topic areas. But those are really the things. We're working with the coalition partners throughout the education space. Districts, Department of Education, partners at NSHE, some of our labor unions, School Board Association, and of course, Superintendent's Association, and are really happy to be able to connect and communicate and coordinate with them on this work. I'd like to also add, in addition to testifying on bills pretty regularly, there were two special presentations provided by the district. One, both occurred in March. One was on student safety, that was presented to the Joint Senate Education and Senate Judiciary Committee. Superintendent Jara and Chief Blackeye, Chief of CCSD Police, provided a presentation, and then in addition to that, also referenced there's a presentation on the CCSD budget and alignment to student outcomes in reference to additional funds that may come out of this biennium. That was provided to the Joint Senate Finance and Assembly Ways and Means Committee, and with the full information that was provided to the committee for the various questions that were requested. I also, before I get into the bills here, I just want to say, I'm new to the district as an employee. I did attend CCSD schools growing up. But I just wanted to take a moment and comment on how many brilliant and thoughtful experts within CCSD I have the privilege to encounter each day as we're reviewing legislation, analyzing it, identifying positions or potential amendments, and the level of contribution and commitment that I experienced with folks throughout the district, through them leaning in on this legislative process, participating in hearings, and like I said, on a daily basis, providing this crucial insight on bills. I'm just really impressed and really proud to be a part of this organization. So just wanted to take a moment to I'm just gonna just briefly run through some bills, quick side, some that were on the opposition side, and then neutral. Hopefully in alignment more or less to our legislative platform. That's certainly front of mind each and every day to ensure that whenever we're in the building and wherever we're weighing in on legislation, that we're ensuring that alignment exists to what this board has put forth. So in relation to support, of course, our CCSD gets 2 bill drafts with board voted on those, and so SB 47 is the one that is in relation to teacher working conditions. That passed out of work session, out of this first committee, the Senate Education Committee, a couple days ago, or maybe it was last week, no, Monday of this week, and had some amendments in there, but what that does is clarify some language around the definition of teacherages, and would cap licensure fees and renewal fees at $50. In addition to that, we've got SB 65, which looks at board of trustees, specifically background checks and some components around board training. My gratitude to Trustee Garcia Morales, President Garcia Morales, for contributing to that bill presentation. That had a hearing. We're hoping to get it to work session before the deadline tomorrow. In addition to that, some other bills that we're supporting, SB 71, which was the Nevada State Teacher and Education Support Professional Recruitment and Retention Task Force. In addition, AB 72, which directs the Joint Interim Standing Education Committee to study some various topics around mental health and wellness for students, workloads for teachers, licensure requirements, and trends in graduation rates. In addition to that, appropriation for grants to support dual credit programs with AB 347, SB 294, which is revising provisions related to the safe storage of firearms, as well as AB 400, which is coming out of the governor's office, which has a number of different components to it in relation to enrollment and labor shortages and teacher pipeline as well. And in opposition, there are a handful of bills, for the most part, what we've been finding is a lot to do with operational decisions around the organization. So SB 48, which came out of Clark County, had to do with providing provisions for air quality and specifically air quality fees. SB 282, which has to do with adjustments to the reorg, to the reorg of our school district, of course. AB 175, which we had which adjusts the composition of boards of trustees. And there's been some extensive amendments on that. SB 344 also, directly impacting Clark County School District, revising some different components of the reorg. And then AB 282, which was just this afternoon, regarding subsidy for health insurance for substitute teachers. There were some amendments that happened. They did the hearing and then the work session immediately after. Based on the amendments, we'll be going back to see if we adjust any of our stance on that component. In neutral, and just briefly, and I'll wrap up here, I just wanted to highlight a couple of items. AB 357, which revises provisions governing sex ed in public schools. We were neutral on that, in particular, as this board on its legislative platform identified specifically supporting changes to the opt-in measure in relation to sex education. So we weighed in on that particular component, but as I said, there were other provisions in there that we weren't, that we did not engage on. AB 339, which revises provisions relating to accountability reports in public schools, and then AB 428, which has to do with economic development and teacher pipeline, more so there. So those are three that we went neutral on. And again, I just want to say it's an immense privilege to be able to be up here and represent the district. I think it's like a childhood dream. And there's still a long way to go in legislation. I think, again, starting next week, as Mr. Story said, we'll have a little bit of a better handle on what the universe of bills are that will be moving forward and be able to continue to focus our attention and focus our attention and ensure that we are driving policy that is supportive of student outcomes and supportive of the legislative platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Havan. Todd Story, Chief Communications Officer for the record. Trustees, if you have any questions for the superintendent, we are here so we can respond accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Story. I see a couple of colleagues in the queue. Trustee Guzman.
Thank you, President Garcia Morales. I have just a couple of just procedural type of understanding because I do watch every single day and I do keep track. I believe some of my colleagues do the same. And I have just a couple of questions about our neutral stance. And what is the process to determine how we are neutral? If, let's say, like, I'll just use the sex ed as the example. And it's not the only one that I was curious about why we were neutral. But if the board feels strongly about something or has mentioned that it would have liked to have had an additional bill draft to move forward with that bill, what would make us go neutral on that bill?
Yeah, Madam President, members of the board, I will start. I can speak to the process once Mr. Story and Ms. Haddad discuss where the bill is coming. Mr. Story comes to me, speaks to me. We look at the board, especially 357, we look at the board's priority on the legislative platform, which was to opt in and opt out. There was a lot of different components in that bill. So for us to testify, it was a neutral to take the position that we favor of the opt-in, the opt-out provision within that portion of the bill. But I had Mr. Story speak to Bill Berry because there was other items within that bill that the board did not authorize itself, Mr. Story, or Mr. Act to speak to. So that is the process. President Garcia Morales, Trustee Superintendent Todd Story, Chief Communications Officer for the record. That's exactly the process. As we look at the platform and the direction from the board, if there's clear direction, then we take that position. If there is direction that is, in that case, specifically the 357, as the superintendent explained, only to the provision of opt-in, opt-out. When we met in advance of the legislative session, we indicated that to the chair, so she knew our position in advance. And her bill ended up being a lot more included in it than just the opt-in and opt-out provision. But she knew in advance what we were to be able to support based on the direction from the board.
Great, thank you. And so is that the same process in opposition? So for example, we specifically asked for a definition in the reorg of for our ESPs. And when the bill came forward with the definition, we were opposed to it. So is that the same process?
The Garcia Morales Trustees, Superintendent Todd Story for the record, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Guzman. Trustee Williams?
Thank you. I don't actually have any questions. I just really wanted to say thank you to Story leadership. And then, because I know this is your guys' first year that government relations falls under communications, and we used to have an entire department and you. So, and I know this is her first year here, full year. So I just want to say thank you guys for doing all this. You're doing a phenomenal job, and I don't feel like there's ever a moment that I'm not.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Williams. Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. Story and Mr. Dodd, who've already answered part of my question. Because as usual, Trustee Guzman took part of my question, so I should save you some time there. I had a question also about AB 357. You've already explained that. So on testifying in neutral, like AB 339 on the accountability reports and AB 428 having to do with the teacher pipeline, was, again, I understand what the protocol was that Dr. Dodd just explained. And so on 357, the board was in favor of the opt-out, which is what 357 was advocating for, but because there were so many other things in the bill, that's why we went in neutral, right? And so could you explain what the rationale was for 339 and 428? Please.
Sure. Todd Story, I'm sorry, President Garcia Morales, Trustee Superintendent Todd Story for the record. Ms. Haddad, do you want to explain the rationale behind those two bills?
Certainly.
Or I can take
Thank
one and
you.
you can take one, whichever you
Madam
prefer.
President. So, can you hear me all right?
Very good.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you, Madam President, through you to Trustee Cavazos, Patricia Haddad. So on AB 399 in particular, and I'd be happy to share the specific testimony document that we provided. It looked at student performance data and the disaggregation there. And so what we shared was that, while it's a worthwhile effort, from a statewide perspective to review and analyze the student performance data, disaggregate teacher and consecutive, looking at whether or not a student had a licensed teacher perform more consecutive weeks, as well as disaggregating student performance by student attendance. Essentially, there were some particulars in there that we were in discussion with the Assemblywoman that brought this the language forward. As far as some amendments, just based on what tracking and alignment with other metrics that exist within the performance framework look like. And so where we landed, on neutral, it had to do with those particular details and slight adjustments, as well as recognizing that, new systems would need to be created at the district level, as well as the state level, to ensure that that information and that data is pulled and aligned appropriately in the way that's being requested in that bill. And so you have to also, of course, you would all know that these are dynamic conversations and processes. And so while at the initial hearing we landed on neutral, as amendments come through and as things change, that those positions can of course change.
Thank you, Mr. Haddad. And again, we were speaking of 339, correct?
339 in relation to student performance. Yeah, I hope I'm not.
No, I think that was right. I wasn't sure if I had heard the number said correctly. So thank you for that on that bill.
Certainly. And then, I'm sorry, but Patricia had it. So in regards to AB 428, we landed neutral there. And I think there are two main reasons, and again, these were shared during the testimony. One had to do with the offering teacher academy college pathway programs at every high school, and the way that the language was written, it was in conflict with the district's responsibilities under 388G, so reorg law, and so the bill would violate that provision. And sort of usurp the ability of building principals to be the responsible party for staffing at their school. In addition to that, there was an unfunded, it was an unfunded mandate on the district for every single high school to have a teacher pipeline program. And then recognizing that there's still a long way to go before we know sort of what the funding allocations will look like specifically in the governor's bill. As far as teacher pipeline, we recognize that there are funds available, but there are multiple competing bills there. So unless this was funded specifically in that way, what we're looking at is funds from that proposed $2 billion increase to fund this mandate, resulting in less revenue for compensating our educators, professionals, and administrators, of course. So again, like I said, these are dynamic processes. And so as we continue to engage with the bill sponsor, that may change in the future as well.
Thank you, Ms. Haddad. I really appreciate your explanation and going through the rationale for arriving at neutral. I appreciate that. And Mr. Story, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Dr. Dara?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Trustee Cavazos, it's a great question. And sometimes, and actually a lot of the time, when we go into a neutral position, just to make sure, as Ms. Anon talked about, is to state our position. Obviously, that's to do with the future pipeline, we are in support, but there's some challenges within the bill that prohibit our school district with NRS 388G that the legislature put into law. So it's a law that competes or is in contradiction with the previous law. This is to state our position. As far as the accountability, anything that has to do with accountability, we're going to obviously is to get our point across that, especially as a district, since it seems like the legislature is concerned around student achievement with this funding. We certainly want to state our position that we support accountability. Accountability does it's not just here the bias in my office, it goes all the way down to school building and the classroom, all the way back up to the legislature. So there is a reciprocity that they are held accountable to the public. We are as well as executives and as leaders and teachers, and to really make sure that our point is that we support it, but have to be neutral because of the way that the bill is written.
Thank you, Dr. Dara. Trustee Cavazos?
Yes, just a quick follow-up. Thank you, Dr. Dara, for that additional explanation. And I think what would help is and I do try to watch as many hearings as possible. I know that a lot of people need to back and watch after their archive. But I think that what would help is like what you mentioned before, if the chair of the committee already knows, what our position is. If somebody is just watching as a constituent and they just see us go to neutral, but it's not stated specifically, and I think that just does most of the time go ahead and state, this is our position. So just wanted to bring that out because I think that it helps people understand where we're coming from, where it might seem on the surface, oh, why are we not supporting that? But there's better reasons. Yeah. So I appreciate, thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Trustee Zamora?
Thank you, President Garcia Morales. I have two questions. The first one is from the bills that were passed in August. What are the bill numbers for those that we supported?
President Garcia Morales, Trustees, Superintendent Gerard Story for the record. Within the actual platform, is that your question? What bills aligned to
The BDR.
Oh, that, sorry, SB 47 is the teacher housing, teacher workforce bill, and then SB 65 is the board governance bill.
Okay. And then and this is a question because I'm also learning, right? So now that we're in a neutral position with the bill, is there a chance to ever get to either opposition or in support? And if so, what are the next steps?
President Garcia Morales, Trustees, Superintendent Gerard Story for the record, yes. So by coming in the first hearing as neutral, we share our concerns with the bill's sponsor as part of that introduction and presentation process. We're able to explain why, which Ms. Sadat has done very well and very specifically. It's outlined not only in her testimony, but in written submission as an exhibit attached to that specific hearing. And it spells out why, we have concerns and that we have to testify neutral. And then if they amend it according to our recommendation, then we can support it ultimately. If they choose not to, then we would have to oppose it.
So just to clarify that there will be follow-up discussions with us to see if we're even going to agree. Like, for example, AB 357, will we ever have a discussion saying, oh, let's talk about this more in depth? Switch to either side?
I'm going to jump in here at the end. Thank you for that question, Trustee Zamora. We, as a group, we voted for the legislative platform. If there's a need or desire to modify the legislative platform, we would have to bring it back to the board for votes.
Thank you. That's what I did. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zamora. I'm going to check in with Trustee Bustamante Adams.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Trustee Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank staff who actually took the time to go and present. Even if I don't feel that legislators were very respectful to you, and I apologize. I know I'm not responsible for the behavior, but I apologize anyways. I know my peers that I'm working through the Nevada Association of School Boards. I know my peers around the state have also noticed. Lots of school board members from rural communities have started to wonder why even their legislators are hyper focused on Clark County. There are a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of communities outside of Clark County, and I'm quite certain that they would also benefit from laws and consideration when laws are written. I want to thank you and for bringing up the point, and I appreciate you continuing to oppose unfunded mandates. That was a core position that we were very firm on, especially given the fact that the legislative bodies have failed to fund education adequately for 20 years. So lots of people have lots of winning ideas, but when it comes down to it, they don't fund them. And we get really, really distracted in this state with like the next shiny initiative. And not only do these things cost money, they cost time, focus, attention,
they divert our energy from teaching kids to read and write to sometimes implementing ideas that are not based on anything that would ever work in a system, because the people who write these ideas are not in the system. So I would be very frustrated if I were in this position, inheriting some of this very visible negative energy. So I want to give you my gratitude. I appreciate everything that you're doing and keep it up. And I think that, yes, I believe in accountability, but I also believe accountability should be shared equally among everybody. So yes, everybody should be equally accountable for these student outcomes, because if you do not fund education, then you do not get the outcomes that you would like. So I hope that they do fund education better, and we will absolutely be transparent and hold ourselves accountable, but I do think people should hold other people.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. Thank you, Mr. Story. Thank you, Ms. Haddad, for your tireless effort leading up to the session and during the session. Right now, what we're in session in the coming weeks. Look forward to hearing another legislative update in the future, coming back to the board as the time continues to wind down the session. We wish legislators all the best in helping us ensure that our students we continue to prioritize our students and focus on our students and not results, challenges, or issues. Mr. Story, wishing you a great rest of your evening. Thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haddad. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to move on, colleagues, to item 4.01. That's public comment items. Public comment on items not listed as action items on the agenda. All right, we have some individuals who signed up in advance. Thank you for that. We'll start there. However, before we continue, I'm going to ask for yellow cards. If there are individuals who have not had a chance to get a yellow card but would like to speak, this is your last opportunity to speak on provide public comment. Please provide it to Ms. Lisa up here. You have already submitted your yellow card. Thank you. You can go ahead and move on to this item. We'll start with the individuals who signed up in advance. Mr. Bayless. Isabella Campos. Then we'll follow Caitlin Fisk, Blake Floor. Maybe you'll teach me how to say your names. Welcome. Are you Isabella? Hi, welcome. You can come up on the mic. Bring the microphone down a little bit so we can hear you, and state your name for the record, and you can begin your comment.
Hello, my name is Isabella Campbell. Good evening, my name is Isabella, and I'm currently a sophomore at Canyon Springs High School. And I'm here today to speak in regards to supporting water access in schools. Students need water refilling stations in school through our CCSD. Without constant access to water, there are many safety concerns, such as students should not be spending 6 to 8 hours a day without access to water. As it is becoming spring, it's starting to get in the 80s and 90s. Students should not be spending all day without water in those temperatures. Even when it's not those temperatures, the dry heat in southern Nevada demands a high water intake for locals of all ages. Because of the lack of water, students will be forced to get into water fountains that are uncleaned, unsanitized, and have dirt and mold on them. Because of dehydration, their attention span decreases and will cause them to ultimately be unproductive. Dehydration is a serious issue that causes a lot of these health issues that could be reduced to youth by getting these refilling stations. Some schools have made these changes, but it should be all schools. My school has, and it has made a difference. Students in my school have been more productive, less tired, more attentive, and overall just in a better mood. Because students don't need to wait till they get home to have water and constantly be dehydrated. But we can't ask them when the problem disappears. At my school, we only have one in the cafeteria that works. Of course, the most inaccessible one. Schools can say we have one, but it's more than that. They need this positive environment such as productivity, attentiveness, and a better mood in every school, and a better environment. Thank you. I wish that as representatives of youth in Nevada, you take action and add this important need to our budget if you truly care about the education and health of students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isabella. Great work. Caitlin, this. Here. Followed by Blake Eklor. Followed by Robert Garcia. Are you Caitlin?
Good evening, trustees. My name is Kate Lucas. I'm a junior at Shadow Ridge. I'm Blake Eckler. I'm also a junior. I'd like to speak to Regulation 5127 pertaining specifically to the weighted GPA cap of 4.95. When you reinstated the GPA cap as the board, from what we have been told, the reasoning was that it would reduce student stress and improve mental health. However, we believe that the GPA cap only has a negligible to non-existent effect on improving mental health and reducing stress, since those who take the high-level classes are so and will continue to so with or without the GPA cap for taking those classes. Not only this, but the GPA cap was enacted starting with our class of 2024, making it the situation especially frustrating as our class and the class of 2025 have already worked hard only for GPAs to be capped without our consent. We say that the students who are directly affected by the GPA cap being first and second in our class at Shadow Ridge and will be maxed out by the end of the year. As such, we believe that we should have more of a say in how high our GPA should be able to go, or the limit however much we want to charge. Personally, I have already reached the GPA cap. I've maxed out, and that started with our class. We would like to emphasize once again that our class in the class of 2025 already planned our schedules based on not having a GPA cap. With dozens of valedictorians at each school, all having reached at least a 4.95, the value of the title is greatly diminished. It would no longer be something that a student has to strive for, and the selective nature of valedictorian would also be there. We understand that too much competition and separation can produce negative effects in society, but we don't believe in getting rid of rewards for those who work for it. Really, the only people who are getting affected and ultimately harmed by this decision are those who are at the top of their class who have met the GPA cap and want to push themselves to a future passion. The cap GPA doesn't clearly reflect the time and effort that we put into taking and excelling in these classes. When we apply to university, whether we meet the cap or exceed the cap, it doesn't show. All that shows is the 4.95. Although yes, admission autism, yes, that we've taken high level or AP honors, full credit. Sometimes they just look at one individual out of a group of similar people. This reduces our competitiveness when applying to colleges compared to students in schools. Other districts don't have a GPA cap, but it's college opportunities. We understand that two students, Evermont and Troy Harris from Clark High School, spoke to you last July about lifting this cap, and we would like to extend the precedent established at that meeting by either removing the GPA cap completely or simply lifting the cap for the classes of 2024 and 2025 who started high school before the cap was instituted. We understand this may not be a most pressing matter, but it is for us. And if there is to be a GPA cap, it should be for the incoming freshmen who will start high school with the expectation of a GPA cap. Thank you for your time. Absolutely.
Thank you, Caitlin. Robert Garcia. After Robert, we have Adrian Amparan and Lily Wilson. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees. My name is Robert Garcia. I'm the Economic Justice Organizer with Mayfield, Nevada. I'm here today to advocate for clean water access for all students within Clark County School District. As a concerned member of the community who has both friends and families going to school within the district, I believe that access to clean drinking water is not only a basic human right, but also a critical factor in ensuring that our students can thrive academically. When students do not have access to clean drinking water, it has detrimental effects on their educational outcome. Dehydration can lead to reduced cognitive function, poor concentration, and decreased academic performance. Students who are thirsty or uncomfortable due to lack of clean drinking water may become distracted or fatigued, hindering their ability to learn and participate fully. Furthermore, access to clean drinking water is particularly vital for vulnerable populations, such as students with health conditions or special needs. It's our responsibility to ensure that all students, regardless of their background or circumstances, have access to safe, clean drinking water within their school. Students at a minimum should be able to easily access water when needed, especially when on an average student should be drinking about half a gallon of water a day. I urge the committee to prioritize the health and well-being of our students by supporting measures that guarantee access to clean drinking water in the Clark County School District. By doing so, we can create a conducive learning environment for all students and set them up for success. Thank you for your attention on this important issue.
Thank you, Robert. Adrian. Followed by Lily, and then Albert too.
Hello, good evening. My name is Adrian Paran. I'm a sophomore at Eldorado High School, and I'm here to express my support in find more access to school water for water access, implementing water bottle refilling stations is imperative and provides students more hygienic and convenient way than in contrast to normal water fountains that aren't always maintained. This is simple yet impactful solution with citizens clean access to water. This is a fundamental right, especially during a pandemic. Limiting the usage of water fountain stations will allow students to prevent them from sickness. Dehydration conflicts with learning in and out of school, especially as a student athlete. I know how critical it is to stay hydrated. Dehydration is not fun. I urge your support as representatives of CCSD to implement more funding into the water bottle refilling station value, sustainability, and help us to.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Lily Burkinson, Albert too, and Valerie McDonald. Welcome.
Thank you, Board of Trustees, for letting me speak. I'm currently employed as a long-term substitute for math for sixth graders, and I wanted to present today a substitute-proof opportunity that can support the CCSD curriculum from Dr. Bo Chen Lo. He's a math professor at Carnegie Mellon University and a national coach of the USA International Math Olympiad team. He has a program called Live Math Classes, and the Live Math Scholarship Program are an effort to encourage students to think critically about math in the age of ChatGPT and to close the gap in math education for underrepresented students. Students will rise, I believe, to the level of our expectations of them. Live Math Classes raises that expectation for students to think innovatively and problem solve creatively. I think this man, Professor Bo Chen Lo, has a heart for the students and energy to transform our kids into ethical creators and users of artificial intelligence. And the reason he's interested in helping students is as ChatGPT continues to impact the job market, he wants to sound the alarm to facilitators of knowledge that the need to develop their students' problem-solving skills is very important. And that is why he's on a worldwide tour. He's visiting middle schools all over the world, actually, and he wants to talk about how math can be a vehicle for learning how to think. He has gone from the ivory tower of academia to the mess of the real world to find solutions to these global problems and others. Now, Professor Bo Chen Lo is focused on making creative math learning more accessible to students across the country. Live math classes are designed to make better problem solvers for any level of student. It's a support to the curriculum, and it could be the best bridge program for summer school students going from middle school to high school, or actually he's focused on 6th and 7th graders. What makes this online class unique is that it's taught by a nationally ranked high school math competition star, so it's closer to their age. And they take improv comedy classes to make these classes very captivating. The instructors are provided with cutting edge technology to model classes to look like TikTok streamer setup. Each class begins with a math challenge, and the students work together to come up with solutions. And then these instructors craft the lesson based on their ideas, helping students to develop the confidence and creativity to tackle unknown challenges, which I think is also very important because sometimes I find kids in classes don't want to be challenged. Furthermore, their new scholarship program strives to improve representation at the highest levels of mathematics. So thanks, they have donors. The same live math classes are going to be offered at 90 to 100% scholarships to ambitious and curious 6th and 7th graders who are eligible for free or reduced lunch. And after, okay, thank you for letting me talk, and I have some.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you. Albert? Forgive me. Lily, would you like to, did you share your documentation with us? Could you please provide it to Mr. Caruso? He's in the second row. Mr. Al, Mr. Two, welcome.
Hello. Good afternoon, fellow parents, members of the board, and all of you. There are two issues I'd like to discuss today. First of which is high school sports. My son participated in JV football and is asked to pay $400 for a football field. I also learned varsity players were asked to pay a football fee of $1,100 and $1,175. The issue I had is, whether it was explicitly stated or not, was that my son got the impression if these fees, which could amount to a car payment or a mortgage payment, were not paid, he will not play. I don't have a problem with fundraising, but frankly, this sounds like extortion. Children having to pay high fees in public high school to play a sport they love doesn't sit well with me. I think the other parents may feel the same. I would encourage you, board, to investigate this matter. But do me a favor and begin your investigation at Woodbury High School. I appreciate it. Secondly, I want to address lackadaisical academic standards. I was shocked to learn students of Clark County can turn to work late for correction, and turn to work and not turn to work and receive 2% for that assignment. 0 effort, half credit. They can also turn to work late and receive full credit. I find these two policies completely isolated. When I was in high school, the maximum grade I could receive the latest time was C. It taught me the importance of getting work in on time and accurately. It taught me the real world has consequences to my choices. When I was in college, I'm sure some of you can attest to this. I was given a syllabus at the beginning of the semester. The homework assignment due days and exam. If the assignment was missed, there were no emails sent, phone calls made, or makeup opportunities. You received a 0 for that assignment, and your final grade reflected. As adults, there are real consequences for not completing assignments at work accurately and on time. Consequences like, being fired. In the military, for late, people may die. Where are these policies teaching our kids? How not to be responsible? These policies are not helping the curriculum. Possibly the life need to be reassessed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Valerie McDonald. After Valerie, Vicky Pradell to speak, followed by Diana Bernabi, and Coco Zhang. And then Jason Trump. Welcome, Ms. McDonald. It is, we'd love for you to bring the mic a little bit closer to you so that we can hear you fully.
So actually, I'm going to allow my husband to speak. I'm not a speaker. This is in regards to my granddaughter.
Ms. Thank you. Could you please state your name for the record?
His name is Edgar McDonald.
Good evening, board. This was to Bonnie Adam. My step granddaughter got herself, she was attacked at Cashman School, and her mother responded to the school. She was alarmed. She got upset. She said some things. They ended up being arrested for it, and she's pending her parents in court. As a result, before she was arrested, we withdrew Valerie from Cashman and took her out of school. After that happened, the wife attempted to have Valerie re-enrolled back in Cashman. She was told specifically by the Stites that she had been suspended pending expulsion. In fact, there was no documentation that we could see it. Valerie then attempted to follow up and do it with another school. And we were informed via documentation that I had provided that she could not enroll in any other school except for Cashman. The situation that we have right now is Valerie can't go back to Cashman, at least verbally we can told she probably can't go back. We've also been told that she can't re-enroll at a school close to us because the driver's license shows an address that would put her in another school in another part of town. So she has to either go back to Cashman or you can't go back to school for the rest of the year. What we're asking for is, the situation is probably best at this point, if the administration at Cashman could please reach out to us, and we would be interested in considering an option for distant learning via Cashman to finish out the school year.
Take over. Valerie McDonald for the record. I gave a plan to Mrs. Dice at Cashman Middle School that I did not want my granddaughter to return to that school. I would like her to do distance learning, or I would go in once a week, pick up her work, make her complete it, and return it. I've got nothing. I've got no contact. My granddaughter is being penalized because her mother is an idiot. This girl should be in school. She's been out since March 7th. There's nothing I can do about it. They're making me, as a grandmother, feel like there's nothing I can do. Education is important. I got mine. She deserves hers.
Excuse me, Ms. McDonald, Mr. McDonald. Thank you for sharing your.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We would like to have a member of our staff. Love for you not to walk away because we have an individual who would like to come speak to you and provide you additional information. You're welcome to step out and there's a member of the district staff who's there to give you additional information. Thank you, everyone. Ms. Verdell.
You may speak right out for the record. I'm a teacher in CCSD. I'm here tonight in my role as an ambassador for Community 20. We've heard a lot about prioritizing the teacher pipeline this year. I've never really understood why we focus on recruitment over retention. Recently, I read a study that states that 44% of new teachers leave education in life. That's currently. Considering it costs about $20,000 to hire a teacher, that's highly disturbing. We also know that experienced teachers in general are better at helping improve student outcomes. And if our true goal is helping our students be successful, we know that keeping experienced educators plays an important role in that process. I believe it's a huge mistake to prioritize recruitment over retention. Until we fixed our retention problem, focusing on recruitment brings in new educators who in turn will just leave. It's known as the revolving door of educators. That's when we have a steady stream of educators being hired, just as other more experienced educators leave. It doesn't help schools. In fact, it hurts collaboration, continuity, and stability in our buildings. So if retention becomes the focus, offering good pay and great benefits is at the top of the list. Our Time for 20 initiative would raise educator salaries across the state by 20% and raise ESP pay to start at $20 per hour. Higher teacher pay has shown to reduce turnover, and less teacher turnover has shown to help schools in so many ways. It also makes educators feel more respected and appreciated. Please consider making educator retention part of your overall district for success. I also want to thank Dr. Dara and the board
for using ESSER funds. I believe we used ESSER funds to pay for the ELAD certification. I was just accepted into the first certification cohort. And it's a really important thing to help us be able to serve our English language learners better. And there's 46 of us going into it. And it's been a long time since I've been in college, but I'm hopeful that we'll get plenty of support. And I appreciate that being covered, because without the district help, I would not be able to do the certification of them. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service, Mr. Down.
You are gonna do great in school. Diana, good enough. Please let me know if I got that right or wrong. Okay. State your name for the record.
Good afternoon, School Board of Trustees. My name is Diana Bernade. I am a high school junior in Clark County School District. I'm here today to voice my support for allocating adequate funds of the CCSD budget for the water bottle refilling stations that will achieve water access for all students. And as many of my other peers over here have mentioned, as temperatures are rising to extreme hot weather, it is essential for students to readily have access to water in schools. I mean, I literally live in a desert. So unfortunately, our schools are not equipped with water bottle refilling stations that make it easy for students to access water. Instead, our schools have water bottles locked up behind the vending machine that you must pay for if you want water. If you forget your money or don't have any to begin with, you're out of luck. And that has happened to me several times where I sometimes forget my water bottle at home. And I'm so frequent to school, so then left just dehydrated. But feeling our students is really important. Feeling our students with water is really important. And something that I have personally seen at my school is these like Starbucks energy drinks that are being sold. So I think that instead of filling our students with these double shot Starbucks energy drinks, we should be filling our students with water. And clearly we need to, reset our priorities and focus on providing water for students if we really care about the health of students. So I hope that as CCSD School Board Trustees, you'll do what is right and give us access to free, clean water. And yeah, please consider us when making your budget decision. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Fran. Coco Zhang.
Good evening, board members. My name is Coco Zhang. I'm a junior at West Korean Technical Academy, representing student voices at Youth Power Project, a branch of Make the Road, Nevada. And today, I, along with my peers, want to direct your attention to specifically access to water in our school district. Just a personal story. Growing up, I would always see little kids putting their mouths over the water nozzles of crusty, old, rusty, dirty water fountains, which were often unhygienic, unappealing, and especially to other students, it gives them no incentive to drink water during school hours. And currently, I'd like to point out that we have the opportunity to teach this new generation the importance of not only conservation and sustainable practices, but also the importance of hydration to success in school. By giving our students access to refillable water stations and allocating the money from government grants to these water stations, our students and our children, just like my 9-year-old brother and sister, can grow up in a school system where reminding young students to simply drink water is not a hassle on the teachers, on staff, and family. And I believe that we can all agree that we find ourselves in a rather unique situation today. I noted earlier that President Garcia Morales and Dr. Jara stated that the funding in the near future for our students will be historic. And I understand that there must be decisions and compromises on your part. And I appreciate your time and dedication to us, our schools, and our needs. But the best time for action, especially as with a pressing issue such as water, the best time for action is now. And I'd also like to clarify that this issue is definitely not new. And today I'm only encouraging you to listen and think about students like me who grew up without knowing the importance of water, and students just like my brother and my sister who can be directly impacted by your decision to allocate unassigned, reserved, and newly assigned funds to refillable water stations in our schools. I and so many other students am more than happy to work with you on this issue. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everything you're doing. And of course, we have a long way to go, but once again, the best time is now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Coco. We're Jesslyn, Joe? Jesslyn.
My name is Justin Cho for the record. So I'm a CCSD student here, and I came here on behalf of Youth Power Project with my peers, really just to ask to allow us to be a part of the conversation. When we talk about the daunting task of climate change, time and time again, the youth are not considered in this conversation. But climate change is a profound issue that affects us the most. So therefore, it is imperative that the vitality of sustainability is emphasized by our adults, our mentors, and our educators. Me coming up here as a 17-year-old kid and asking you to implement water refillable stations might seem like an insignificant complaint, especially since we've been here for 2 hours. But what my peers and I can assure to you is that this is not a trivial issue. The mere 9% of plastic that gets recycled is not trivial. The drought in Lake Mead that is affecting the entirety of Nevada is definitely not a trivial issue. And the increasing heat waves that have been brought up by my peers is also not a trivial issue. So please, I ask all of you to implement the water refill stations and finally let us join the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin. All right, colleagues. This time we are through public comment that cards that have been submitted in advance and on when you can send up in advance. Moving on to item 5.01. The upcoming meeting of the Board of Trustees is Thursday, April 27th, 5 p.m. All right, we're going to move on to adjournment. I see Trustee Williams is in the queue.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Trustee Williams. Trustee Guzman.
Thank you. I also want, I want to second it, but I also want to let the students know that we heard you.
Trustee Guzman. Colleagues, we have a motion on the floor by Trustee Williams and a second by Trustee Guzman. Colleagues, please cast your vote. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Aye.
Thank you, colleagues. That motion passes 7-0. The time is 6:56. Have a great evening.
Thank you.